will not be on the ballot. Go ahead and pose your question.
Could be a write-in.
So I'd like to have Gordon Klingensmith start with this, or maybe be the last one. You brought this up. I would like each of you to address, without being squishy and pawn it off on something else, how do you see getting city government to be lean and mean and efficient without being bloated?
Okay, did everyone get the question? I just wanted the crowd to know this will be one of our last 2 questions. Okay? Gordon, would you like to start?
I want to go last.
Okay. Come back. Do me a favor, just speak loudly into the mic. A few people did not hear the question.
Okay. I want you guys to address specifically, not general, how are you going to work to get the city expenses lean and mean, not bloated, to make government more efficient, not spending money all over the place on stuff that gets votes or certain people want? How are you going to get it lean and mean?
Okay, lean government. Wayne, you ready?
So my name's Wayne Williams. I was a county commissioner. While I was a county commissioner, El Paso County had the lowest cost per citizen of any county in the state. And it wasn't just by a little bit. The next closest to us was Arapahoe County, and they were 42% more expensive per citizen than we were. So I've done that. As Secretary of State, I slashed fees so that we were the lowest in the nation. So I've got a track record of looking at things, of making the tough decisions, and being willing to do that. That's the same approach I would bring to the city. But at the same time, we expanded services in those offices as well and made it easier for people. One of the things, online offerings, which are much more efficient, both for government to process and a lot easier for us as citizens. Thank you very much. My name is Wayne Williams.
Tony Joya. I'm proud of the fact that we actually live in a county and city that is already lean, but we can do better. There are places where we're spending money where we shouldn't be, instead of spending it on the critical pieces of government that are actually the role of government. Safety. Our police are short right now. We're short 120 officers. That costs money. You know, we have to make sure that we are prioritizing our budget properly for safety, for firemen, for the issues that government really is supposed to take care of. On the other side, we have to make sure that while we're being fiscally responsible, we're not being cheap. Because if we end up spending all our money to train up really effective, good public servants, our police, our firefighters, and then they find out they can go an hour up the road and make twice as much money, we're going to lose them, and we're going to lose all that money we spent on training. So in order to be fiscally responsible, we need to make sure we're paying them appropriately up front. That'll save us money on the tail end.
Ma'am, your question deserves an answer. Tom Strand, 30 years in the Air Force, I lived through times when I was told to reduce my budget in my JAG office by 10, 15%. You can do that. It's a draconian way to reduce costs. We could put something on the ballot that says, in fact, the people are going to vote for the government to close down. We came onto this council after one of the worst recessions that this state and this county and this city have ever seen. And as a result of that, you've heard what's happened to parks. You heard we turned off lights. We stopped picking up trash. I think one of the best ways to conserve money and be more fiscally conservative, and I'm on both budget committees for both utilities and the city, and that's to use technology to our advantage, to replace employees in many cases, and to work hard with each new budget to ensure we're showing the public how we're being more efficient.
So you've got to be careful when you talk about lean, because all of us have different definitions. The county has a definitely different definition because of their fiscal austerity. If you live in the county, do you really know what your response time is for the sheriff? okay, by the time you get to the hospital. All right? You've got to remember, we're a big city, we're getting bigger. Do you know what 2A and 2C told us? We don't have enough money for roads or for infrastructure. That's what it told us. And we had to plead with you all to please pass it so we could repair the things that we were being sued on by everybody else. We still got EPA lawsuits out there. Again, we have to come to grips as a community with what we need and what we're willing to pay for. So lean to me means giving you the services we promised you. It's quality and quantity. The quality of the officer who shows up to resolve your issue and the number of people who show up to resolve the issue. Without both of them, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to be safe. And that's our primary responsibility, safety. Thank you.
Val Snyder. I had the privilege of going through 4 budget cycles when I was on the Colorado Springs City Council. And it was my experience, each budget cycle, much of the budget is based on what the citizens tell us they want. They want faster response time. They want more money on parks. They want firefighters to show up faster. They want the streets fixed. That costs money. I would say my exposure in the 4 years, we are pretty lean. We are pretty lean when it comes to how we spend the money on what already. But if we're to be responsive to the community, we have to think, how lean do you want us to get? That's the question. So you're right to ask the question, but I will say that a lot of what we do as we pass the budget is that we listen to the people and we try to reflect it, and if they want more services, it's going to cost more money.
I don't have to go last. I already know what I'm going to say. So, as a fiscal conservative, again, I've already looked at the city budget. My observation is this. 2/3 of the city budget goes to employee salaries. And when the median income, personal income of a Colorado Springs resident is $29,000, but we are paying city employees either $107,000 or $127,000 per year. That's 3 or 4 times as much as the taxpayer is able to make in a single year. We've got to be more efficient, and somebody's got to be on this side of the negotiating table. For example, that's why I'm against issue 1, where they want to unionize public employees and give them collective bargaining rights. They've got pretty good reps on their side of the table. That's why they're paid so gosh darn much. Who's going to represent the taxpayer? I was named a taxpayer champion or guardian by the Colorado Union of Taxpayers. That's the union I want to join, is the Taxpayers Union. I'm Gordon Klingerschmidt.
Good evening, Randy. My name's Randy Tuck. I think that there are all kinds of ways that we can cut in the budget, but we certainly don't want to start cutting back in areas that's going to be detrimental for our city or our future. At the same time, we're always going to need to look forward as we go forward. We're always going to need to reevaluate the budget, make certain that the spending we've done in front of us has all been what we expected. If there are any unforeseen items, we want to make sure we can address those and adjust our budget accordingly. So the issue where they stopped, emptying the trash cans in the park and cleaning up, that's the kind of thing that can hurt us because our parks, especially in our downtown area, bring in tourism, and that's an important thing for us. So we want to make certain that we start cutting back in any arena that is always smart and it's something that we can tolerate.
Okay, so we all know that in order for our city to thrive, we have to invest in our city. I believe that the people of the city should have a voice in how these funds are being allocated if this is where the revenue is being generated from. Throughout my master's in public administration course, I've been learning a lot about government structure, public policy, implementation, budget, planning, and all those different things. And I know that each department is responsible for their budgeting. And during the budget planning process, there needs to be some priorities. And we need to spend wisely. And again, like I said, the money is being generated from the people of the city. So we all collectively should have a say in how the money is being spent. Thank you, Regina English.
Hi, Athena Rowe. And you know, it's interesting, I wrote this book about administrative waste, and I think that as long as we have transparency and we don't have self-interested committees necessarily allocating resources so that they're little self-sustaining monopolies thrive and survive, which is healthcare, that we should, you know, certainly ensure that our city that we have first responders, that we pay our police force and our firefighters what is reasonable and competitive and so forth. And I do like the idea of a taxpayer union. That's funny. But there is one. Oh, fantastic. Okay. But in any event, I think we really need to have full transparency of our government to make sure that there is very little administrative waste, because I think that would be really more telling, and particularly in light of sometimes closed-door settlements and so forth for lawsuits that sometimes take funds where they could be used more appropriately elsewhere. Athena Rowe, thank you.